Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Shamali Satyendra. I am a product owner at Xventure. Today, I'll be giving an overview of our flagship product Xapi, a fully fledged API design management solution. Let's have a look on today's lineup. Before we dive into the XAPI product specifics, let me give a backdrop to APIs. API. An API, which stands for Application Programming Interfaces, serves as a bridge between different software applications. It enables applications to communicate and interact seamlessly. So, APIs have become the backbone of modern software development, enabling organizations to build complex applications by leveraging the capabilities of external services. This has led to a diverse ecosystem of APIs, both public and private, catering to various functionalities such as payment processing, social media integration, and more. The API lifecycle. When considering the API lifecycle, it encompasses the stages that any API goes through, from its planning, designing, developing, testing, deploying, and maintaining. This lifecycle approach ensures a structured and efficient process for creating and managing APIs. So here you can see there are two main approaches that are adapted by the API solution providers for API creation. It's design first and code first. The design first approach, it involves through planning and designing the API structure, endpoints, data models, and interactions before writing any code. This method emphasizes clarity, consistency, and adherence to industry standards. It helps ensure that the API serves its intended purpose effectively. On the other hand, the code first approach, it involves writing the API code first and then building the design around it. This approach can be quicker for prototyping but may lead to inconsistencies and difficulties in scaling the API in the long run. So, first, with the code first approach, API development might lead to an API that lacks proper structure, is not well documented, and is challenging to maintain and expand over time. The design first approach, on the other hand, it addresses these concerns by putting a strong emphasis on planning, documentation, and adherence to best practices. The API development process through a proper design phase is the way to identify potential bottlenecks, security vulnerabilities, and scalability issues in the early process. So, this resulting in a more stable and efficient APIs. When it comes to a design first approach, various organizations often adopt different team structures. So it's really interesting to see how these varies across the spectrum. Startups and small scale organizations typically have the agility to streamline processes to complete their API designing with a single cohesive team. This approach allows for quick decision making, shared vision, and a tightly integrated workflow. On the other hand, mid scale to large scale organizations with more complex and extensive API requirements often opt for different strategies. They may have the resources and need to establish separate teams dedicated to drive the API design. These specialized teams can focus on different aspects of the design process, ensuring that each component is meticulously crafted to meet the organization's specific needs. So, whether you are a startup or a large enterprise, the approach to API design can be tailored to suit your unique circumstances and objectives. It's all about finding the right balance that enables you to create robust and efficient APIs in line with your organization's goal. So, yeah, when considering the design process, the API design process is generally managed by the governance, design, and review processes. The API design process involves several key steps. It begins with defining the API purpose and audience, followed by creating a detailed specification that outlines endpoint, data formats, authentication methods, and more. The next step, including prototyping, testing, and refine the design based on feedback. So, design tools and specifications like OpenAPI can greatly underpin this process, offering a standardized way to describe the API interfaces, API structures, and interactions. Likewise, even though there are many established and reputed service providers for API designing, there are major pain points that the API teams are facing day in, day out that are not getting addressed. So let's try to investigate them in detail. So here you can see the pain points that we have identified related to the API governance, API design, API review, and communication related things. So in this phase, we will introduce Xapi. So Xapi, an API design platform that supports design first approach. So then let's have a look on how Xapi supports to the previously mentioned pain points. So Xapi tackles a range of obstacles that arise in the realm of API requirement management, API governance, design, review, and community support. To effectively address these challenges, Xapi has implemented various strategies throughout the distinct phases of the API design first process. Now, let's dive into each of these phases for more details. With the governance team, firstly, we can investigate the governance process. When the business team of an organization get new API requirement, that could be in a form of new feature, improvement, or bug fixer. So those API requirements are usually pushed to the governance team to be validated and prioritized, because normally in organizations they may not have cycles to incorporate in all the API requirements they're getting soon. So the governance team, when given new requirements, must make sure that those new API requirements will develop a new APIs or enhance the existing APIs in a way the overall API portfolio is consistent, follows standards, and align with the organization business goals. So doing this for one or two API requirements might be manageable within their tight schedules. However, when the governance team is posed with parallel cropped up API requirements, their valuable time inefficiently spent, resulting in negative impact on the organization's expenditure as well. For instance, API governance team, when given new requirements, must check the validity of those requirements and how well they fit against the existing API portfolio. Likewise, for that, when they will have to invest for that, they will have to invest a lot of time searching for similar APIs, because there is no structured or clear visibility to existing APIs. Even after spending so much time, if they find similar API, then they have to redundantly spend time on analyze those one by one to check the current status of each API and check how these APIs evolved over time. So in such a setting, API governance team's time is inefficiently spent just to analyze and prioritize API requirements. However, with XAPI's bunch of cool governance features, the API governance team and the governance process can simplify, and governance team can and their API requirement analysis process and they can spend their valuable time on more important tasks. Here you can see API catalog. API catalog that showcase all related APIs, versions, artifacts in a structured central location. This will enable the governance team to find existing APIs within seconds from a central holistic view. As APIs created in Xapi will comply with standards like OpenAPI, so it would be much easier for the governance team to efficiently identify components that are relevant to new API requirements, and also API history view. So history view will give quick access to learn how those API evolved over time. So these cool XAPI features will enable the governance team to effectively and efficiently analyze the new requirement and prioritize and move them to the design team. So next we can have a look on the process of the design team. Design process. Once the prioritized API requirements are pushed to the design process, designers should ensure well-designed, documented, and standard compliant APIs. So once the design team receive multiple new API requirements, they must ensure the implementation of these API requirements efficiently in addition to their existing workload. So as an initial step, designers require quick access to existing APIs. However, designers must spend time extensively to find similar APIs and versions. Even after they find similar APIs and or versions, their design time would require spending on compare the similarities and differences between codes of different APIs and versions. So working on this task might make it hard for the design team to manage their work in structured manner due to lack of well-tracked conversations. They may spanning across mediums such as traditional emails, meetings, chats, likewise. So having seen all of these issues that the designer teams are facing day in day out, we at XAPI had bundled a bunch of features that would make the API design process much easier and make designers on track. Here you can see the backlog. It enables quick access to all API requirements that identified and all API requirements, and it identifies what requirements can be prioritized to their time-based box sprints and design APIs parallelly. The Kanban board, it will give central view of the parallelly worked on API design tasks and shareable API models that act as API blueprint enable the API design team to reuse existing APIs and it avoid rework. And also XAPI enables design team to create standard compliant API documentation. And the diff view, diff view enables designers to compare old and new API code side by side and identify the changes. And API versioning, it enables design team to implement API requirements with backward compatibility, and it enables flexible API evolution. The ability to add comments and reply on API code, it enables design team to perform conversations related to API design efficiently, and it enhances team collaboration as well. So once the design team is done with the design, they will be pushed it to the designed API to the review process. So next we can have a look on the review process. So reviewers are responsible for evaluating and ensuring that the APIs designed by the design team is adhered to the API standards and best practices while maintaining consistency, maintainability, usability, and security across all APIs. So the reviewer team, when given with API designs for review, must rigorously check whether those API designs comply with API standards and best practices. Traditional communication approaches, so followed by API teams such as emails, scheduled meetings, hinder the decision making and operation efficiency. So here you can see the features that introduced by the XAPI. XAPI's Kanban board. It will enforce a standard review process, and the reviewer team will be able to quickly identify the API designs awaiting for review in the visual representation. And XAPI fosters standard compliance API designing. The reviewers will be able to test APIs efficiently, and the diff view, it facilitates reviewer team to compare codes and identify inconsistencies or changes, and they have ability to comment and reply on API code. It enables the reviewer team to promptly share their feedback with the API designers directly, and that comment replies, so it enables to actively engage with comment assignee and other interested parties to have constructive discussions. So effective API team communication fosters collaboration, and ultimately it result in more robust and usable APIs. So now we have looked on the API governance process, design process, and review process. So this API designing, it extends beyond the governance, design, and review processes. So external stakeholders who use these APIs also play a crucial role here. In some cases, organizations need to showcase their robust API securely, but many organizations struggle with effectively conveying changes in API details to their stakeholders or consumers. So that's where XAPI steps in. XAPI introduced the consumer user role. So this user role enabling organizations to share their APIs with external stakeholders with features like history view, diff view, and inline commenting. So organizations can interact with consumers effortlessly, and also they can effortlessly track the consumers' feedback as well. Moreover, XAPI provide proper way to notify API users of changes and updates of that particular API. So whether the new versions created to that API or is it deprecated, likewise, that kind of updates can be easily timely update to the consumers using the XAPI platform. Additionally, XAPI allows consumers to test the APIs with controlled permissions. So I hope you got good understanding of how XAPI rich features are going to make increase efficiency of different categories of API teams, API process. So now we can have a look on the return of investments that you can gain from the XAPI. So actually, this will be the summary of the benefits that you can gain by onboarding XAPI. Most of the benefits I have explained so far. So as a summary here, time optimization, API designing process. So designing process in a one platform helps to reduce time in each stage, which result in a speedier time to market. Also, there were lots of features that optimize the time consumption of governance, design, and review process. So most of that kind of features I have explained through my previous slides. And stakeholder satisfaction. XAPI is really easy to use, and it's one-stop shop which helps organizations to conduct all their API requirements without any hassle. A fully fledged standard compliant tool, so it supports stakeholders to have a clear overview of the APIs that created. With the consumer user role, organizations can interact with their consumers. So using XAPI, you can enhance your customer satisfaction as well. So with the reduced cost point, so here having design first approach make possibility to work on the task simultaneously. So here you have experienced that the stakeholder involvement throughout the designing process, and it reduced the wrong development cost. And proper API specification increase the developer confidence, And likewise, using XAPI platform, you can reduce many costs that align with the design first approach. And fast innovation, this help the organization to do value addition to their API design features seamlessly. So, yeah, with your newfound knowledge of XAPI and the benefits it offers, let's transition to the XAPI demo. So, this hands on experience will allow you to explore all the features I have discussed so far. So, it will give you first hand look at how XAPI can streamline your API design process and how drive your APIs to success. So now you can have a look on our XAPI platform. So you can register in our application using the xapihub.io URL, and once you register on our application, then you will navigate to the our default organization dashboard. So here you can see, so here you can see our default organization dashboard. So the most important fact is to register in our application, you don't need to share your credit card details. So here you can create your accounts free of charge. And once you register to your system, then you will navigate. Then when you are logged into our application, then you will navigate to this default organization dashboard. Here you can see our XAPI platform is supporting for the multi-tenants. So here using this default organization, you can create your own APIs and models. Here you can see using this create button, you can create APIs, models, and also from this left navigation, you can see most of the features that we have. You can access to the catalog, and you can check your profile details and your subscription details, likewise so many things. And also using this default dashboard, default organization, it has limited features. You cannot access all the premium features via the default organization, but you may be interested to have a look on our premium features, right? So you can enable your free trial by this start free trial, start XAPI for free button. So here you can see how to enable your free trial. So once you enable your free trial, it will give you premium features for 30 days. You can get our premium experience for 30 days. And here from this top ribbon, so you can see that it will allows you to shift between different organizations. So now we can move to one of our premium organization. So here you can see the premium organizations dashboard. Again, from the left navigation, you can see you can navigate to the catalog and check people, and also from the right navigation you can easily access the documentation and pricing details. Likewise, you can access so many details quickly from the right navigation also, and through this knowledge base widget also you can access the documentation details to get idea about how can work with our platform. So here you can see this top ribbon. It allows you to navigate between organizations, and once you navigate to specific organization, then you can select separate projects from here. So now you navigate to the project dashboard. Now you can see this left navigation, it changed according to that project. Now you can access the project specific Kanban board and the project specific API catalog using this left navigation. Now we have locate to specific API catalog. So during the previous presentation also I explained that especially for the API governance team, so they need to refer APIs before taking decisions regarding the requirement. So whether that requirement need new API or is it okay to work with the existing API with minor changes, likewise. So there was a main pain point due to that time consumption to check all APIs one by one. To address that issue, in our XAPI platform, we have initiated this API catalog feature. Here you can see based on your requirement, we can create API collections. So inside of each collection, you can locate same type of APIs. So likewise, you can easily manage your APIs in an organized manner. Then it's really easy for find those things, especially for reviewers and the designers as well. So here you can see that structure inside of a specific collection. We are allowing to create another nested collections as well. Yeah. So here, once you click on a specific API card view, then you can see all of the API versions that created under it. And this is another specific feature. Yeah, you observe that from the specific API, you can refer the linked Kanban ticket. So under the features that I have explained so far, it's about a requirement management. So this is another specific feature that you can find from our XAPI platform. With a specific API, you can keep its requirement as well by linking the Kanban ticket that relevant to that specific API. So now you can see a view of our Kanban board. So this is another specific feature that we have introduced to streamline the reviewing process. So we all know that, we all experience that if we are getting some timeline issues, if we are working quickly and if there are some issues in the timeline, then we are trying to skip the reviewing processes, right? So we are trying to skip reviewing processes and we try to move our APIs to the done status. But by default from our tool, so it will enforce you to go through the reviewing process, because in here you can see once the designer move their APIs to the review in progress status, so then reviewers are the only one who have access to move those APIs to the done status. So designers cannot move a review in progress API to the done status. So based on that, based on the different user roles inside of the project level, we are enforcing to review all the APIs which are moved to the review in progress status. So this is another specific feature that we have introduced to streamline the API reviewing process. And yeah, now we can see that using the catalog, if we click on this version card view, then it will open the API from our tool view. So this is our API designing tool. Here you can see under the details section, again you can check what's the link Kanban ticket and who is the assignee of that API. Likewise, from the both sides, we are allowing to open the corresponding requirement of that API. And yeah, now you can navigate to the Kanban board. So here you can see all the Kanban tickets, right? So there's another specific requirement that, as I mentioned before, so once we work with all the API, and let's assume that we have done with some API and it was all okay, it was aligned with the requirement and technical standards, then reviewer can move it to the done status. So after that, we will get another requirement from our client, and that requirement also seems same as the previous API. So in such a scenario, our governance team will decide to do some minor changes to the existing API. In such a scenario, what we have to do, we can create just a Kanban ticket that mention in the specific requirement, and at that time we will create improvement Kanban ticket. So here you can see the type of that Kanban ticket is improvement. In such a case, you can see now this Kanban ticket is linked with another API. So yeah, now from that base API, we can open the all of branches of that specific version. So here you can see under this view option, under this view option, we can see improvements, bug fixes, and the features, different types of APIs. So those three types of artifacts are allowing our branching support. So this one is really usable for designers to do their parallel designing processes. So without doing changes to the main API version, they can create their own branch and do changes to it. So if that branch, that means improvement, feature or bug fixer, get aligned with all the requirements, then reviewer can merge that branch to the main API version. So here you can see that improvement API also can open from our editing tool, this API designing tool, and here it mentioned as the improvement. So now, so far we have checked the XAPI features as the designer of this platform. So let's have a look on our another set of features. Yeah, so here you can see, so if we move to the catalog and open our API, so previously we have looked on the API view from the tool as a designer. So as I mentioned before, we have two different roles called designer and reviewer. So now let's have a look on the tool API view as a reviewer of this project. So here, yeah. So if I am a reviewer, then I can check the details of that API. So not only for reviewers, sometimes designers also need to get details of that API. So previously I mentioned that using our application, anyone who interested with this API can easily get the details of how this API evolved through the time. So no need to take calls or schedule meetings with someone else to get details. Easily they can check all of these details from our API tool view. Here you can see who was assigned to that API and how long they take to do their designing process, and who has done the reviewing process, and what kind of comments they have made, and what are the commits they have made. All of these informations you can easily check from here, from this history section. And yeah, with commenting also another specific feature, because without moving to external threads to communicate about the API details, we can communicate all of information inside of our application and inside of this tool. It's really easy and it will documented all the things. So under this comment section, we can find all the feedbacks that added by different reviewers and designers. So if we are discuss those things via call or emails or something else, some other traditional medium, then those things will not documented with the API. But here we can check all the things, and anyone who access the API can get to know what are the decisions that taken by the previous reviewers and the designers. Likewise, all of the details we can check from the single view. And from the history, there was another specific feature that's about the diff view. So now you can have a look on that feature when considering each commit, right? So here you can see, when considering each commit, we can compare that commit with different versions, right? From our diff view, here you can see that side by side, developers or reviewers, especially for reviewers, they can check these changes and they can identify what are the recent changes that made to the API. So under the details section, as I explained so far, we can get all the details, what are the related Kanban ticket. Likewise, all the details they can get to know. So yeah, hope you all get a better understanding about our XAPI features. With that, I would like to conclude the presentation. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, join our Facebook and LinkedIn pages for upcoming updates on XAPI. Thanks for joining us.